Yo, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the show. What I got for y'all today is a Week 13 recap, and I just want to give a quick update on that before I get into it. From moving forward, since we're down the final stretch, we're just gonna probably recap like the most important games. 'Cause some games happen week to week that we kind of don't really have much to say on, and so I figure I'll waste time on those, especially with us heading down this home stretch, the last couple weeks of football, and we're about to get in the playoffs soon. So most likely, I'm only going to be recapping games with playoff implications. And just stuff that happened with like games that had something like big happen or something major happen in them, just so we don't waste too much time. Because the recaps has been one of the toughest things for me to get out, basically with the work schedule that I have and things like that. But no excuses, man. We're gonna keep pushing forward. But that's just gonna be the plan moving forward. What I have coming after this is gonna be the Week 14 picks, because I tried to get those out before the Thursday night game. That don't always happen. So if it doesn't get out before the Week 14 game, we're gonna recap the Thursday night game. I'm sorry, the Week 14, the Thursday night game, and we're just gonna upload the picks probably alongside of it. Just so we can have that pretty much done and start moving on to some other things. Because like I said, this was never supposed to be a Saints channel, and I know it's seeming like that because the last couple of videos have been Saints videos, but that's just because those are easy. I get to the mic and I just, go off the dome with that. Pay attention to the Saints the most. So that's, that's the easiest thing for me to get out. So that's going to be the plan moving forward. If it changes, I'll let everybody know. But without further ado, let's just go ahead and get into these games because they had some pretty big upsets this week, and I need to talk about them. Up first, I want to talk about the Lions and the Bears. The Lions beat the Bears 34-30, where the Bears basically blew the lead in this game in the fourth quarter alone. The Bears, man, it's a crazy stat that I've seen. Like this whole season, in the third quarters alone, the Bears have managed to only score 7 points in the third quarter. That's all season. That's insane to me. I don't think I've ever heard anything like that ever. It's like I don't know what they go into halftime, like if they go over anything in halftime or like a script or something to where like, you can come out in the second half with some, like I said, scripted plays, to get in the end zone, like, your best plays, but they just do not score in the third quarter, which is a lot of reasons why they can't hold on to a lead or gain traction if they're behind coming out of halftime. Let's not forget, man, the Bears were 5-1 at one point in this season, and they've managed to lose, I think, 6 straight games. That's sad, but I mean, look, Matt Nagy probably going to get fired after this season because his play calling is absolutely terrible. I don't know, and one of the things that this guy was known for was his offensive play calling. I think he won Coach of the Year because of his job he done with the Bears. That Bears offense wasn't great that year. Mostly was riding on the defense, but it wasn't as bad as it looks now. So yeah, Matt Nagy is probably going to be gone after this season. But yeah, man, look, big win for the Lions. Look, I knew they got Patricia out of here, and I was like, look, they're gonna win this game. It seems like every time a team fires a head coach that boosts for some reason after firing a coach that sucked, it always happens. I think the only team that wouldn't work for is probably the Jets if they fired Adam Gates, because I don't think that boost is gonna help that team very much. But yeah, man, we'll talk about them later because you know how I feel about the Jets. But all in all, man, good win by the Lions. And on from the Lions game, the Browns taking on the Titans. The Browns beat the Titans 41-35. This game was pretty much over before halftime. Well, we thought it was over at halftime. Baker Mayfield threw 4 touchdowns in the first half of this game. They were up 38-7. And the Titans offense I guess they just was like, didn't get off the plane until halftime because they didn't do pretty much anything in the first half of this game. Now, if I'm a Browns fan, I will be concerned because the Titans really almost came back into this game. Like I said, the score was 38-7 and it ended 41-35. We'll have some big concerns about that, especially with a team with a running game like the Browns. You should be able to keep the ball away from the other team and burn some clock. But yeah, they played an absolutely terrible second half. Derrick Henry had a pretty bad game, which lost me my fantasy game this week. We're still in the playoffs, but let's not go on a tangent. Yeah, the Titans. I don't understand this team, man. One week I think they legit and they can make a real push, and then they go out and lose games like this. in a pretty bad fashion. That defense isn't as good as I thought it was either. But yeah, man, the Browns are I think they legit. Like I said, I would have some concerns with them, starting to blow the lead in the second half, which is not the first time they've done this season. If we go back to the beginning of the season, they had a big lead on the Cowboys, which the Cowboys came back, still lost, but I would be concerned because some teams are going to come back and score on you. So, like I said, the Titans are just way too inconsistent, and the Browns, they have to learn how to close games. But the Browns legit, and they finally officially won enough games to where they won't be under 500 this year. So, first winning season since I think 2000. I don't know. But like I said, the Browns are officially going to have a winning record this season. So it's good to see they really got things turned around. So like I said, man, big win for the Browns. Up next is the Bengals taking on the Dolphins. The Bengals lost 7-19, and nothing major happened in this game. The Bengals didn't have Joe Burrow. I think if Burrow played, the Bengals might have actually won this game because the Dolphins really struggled. Tua was back starting this week, and the only thing that really happened in this game that was of importance was a big brawl broke out because the Bengals took a cheap shot at the punt return at the end of the game. And, it's typical shit we've seen with the Bengals over the years. And, it's one of the reasons why I don't see how the fans put up with that team because I just wouldn't be able to root for a team like that. Over the years they've had players like that, just do stupid shit. So, like I said, not much to talk about with that one. The Vikings and the Jags. The Vikings almost lost to the Jags, a team that's lost 10 straight games up until that point, and they pulled out the victory in overtime. The Vikings played like shit for most of this game, but hey, a win's a win. The Vikings are still fighting for a playoff spot, and they very well might be there. And one of the biggest takeaways of the Vikings I see this year, man, Dalvin Cook is a monster. We all know that. But Justin Jefferson, in my opinion, is easily the offensive player, rookie of the year. Like, the dude's been balling. Yeah, man, he's the real deal. So, like I said, big win, good win by the Vikings. Don't know why they struggle with the Jags, but hey, it's any given Sunday. Another game that a team should not have struggled with at all was the Raiders and the Jets. The Raiders beat the Jets 31-28. And I don't want to say the Raiders beat the Jets. The Raiders were gifted a win versus the Jets. This game should not have been this close at all. I don't know what the Jets were going out there to play for. I mean, you might as well just keep going for that 0-16 spot. The Jags are right there behind you for the first pick. So, yeah, man, I don't know why the Jets just exploded onto the Raiders like this. But Greg Williams, dialed up to 0 blitz. Had Henry Ruggs, probably the fastest player in the league, one of the fastest players in the league, one-on-one and single coverage at the end of the game for a bomb, and the Raiders get out there with a victory. I'm going to say I think the Raiders they're another one of those confusing teams because the Raiders have beat the Saints and the Chiefs this season and have managed to almost lose to the Jets. And last week they lost to the Falcons. They got blew out by the Falcons. So it's a weird team, man. I don't know I don't understand the Raiders, but yeah, man, I want to say they're pretenders like they were last year. Just a little better than they were last year. I wouldn't be surprised the Raiders somehow missed the playoffs this season because, like I said, man, they struggle in some of the weirdest games, and sometimes they come out and win some huge games. But yeah, shout out to Darren Waller, man. Dude went off. He had like 200 yards for like 2 touchdowns, basically single-handedly beating me in fantasy this week. So another reason to be mad at the Raiders for this, because if the Raiders would have lost to the Jets, I would have had to make a separate video just shitting on the Raiders. So luckily I didn't have to do that. But yeah, fuck the Jets. And we moving on to the Colts versus Texans. Well, the Colts beat the Texans 26-20. And honestly, man, it was just a tough loss for the Texans, who's continuing to make their Dolphins pick a lot better. Because like I said, man, at the beginning of this season, Bill O'Brien's bullshit was going to catch up with this team this year. And it's been happening. And it's not over. I don't think this is over at all. This is not just going to be a quick fix, I don't think. So, yeah, man, when you look into it like that, it's just a tough loss for the Texans. They had a chance to score at the end of the game. Watson couldn't handle the snap. And, game over. And like I said, it sucks because we know how good of a quarterback Deshaun Watson is, and they do have some very talented players on that team. But I mean, look, man, it's just the problem with Houston teams. It's just mismanaged terribly, and I honestly don't think this is the end of it. So, but we'll talk about that at another time because I actually would like to make a video talking about how Houston's problems might have just be, just starting here. But good win by the Colts to keep playoff contention, playoff hopes alive. I do think the Colts are going to be a team that in the playoffs, they might be a first round exit because, again, they are very inconsistent. But I will say this, their defense is very good, and they find ways to win games. No matter how ugly it is or sloppy it is, they do find ways to win games. Justin Houston, by the way, had a big game this week. 3 sacks. And, yeah, man, I forgot Justin Houston was even in the league, honestly. But, yeah, man, big win for the Colts. And, yeah, trying to speed this up a little more, we got the Rams taking on the Cardinals. So the Rams beat the Cardinals 38-28. And there's not much to say about this game. The Cardinals have fell off pretty quick. They've lost 3 games in a row. And, yeah, man, that defense is absolute ass. They have good players on the Cardinals defense, but man, they can't stop a nosebleed for the most part. Sometimes they have games they come out and do some things, but any team with a good offense and a competent defense could beat the fucking Cardinals. Like I don't know. I didn't think they were gonna be, this great team throughout the season. I mean, they looked pretty good at the beginning, but even still, I was like, they suspect. And yeah, man, they've proven that pretty quickly here. Kyler Murray didn't have his best game, and that's a lot due to the Rams. The Rams' best part of this team is the defense. That Rams defense is pretty damn good, man. And Sean McVay, he's one of those coaches that when it comes to offense, he generates offense no matter how he has to do it, So, yeah, man. Like I said, that's a good win by the Cardinals. Good win by the Rams, man. And the Rams, I think with this win and another loss that we will talk about towards the end of this, they take first place in the division. So, yeah, the Rams, they've been on the roll, man. So, like I said, good win for them. Next, the Patriots shut out the Chargers 45-0, where the Patriots managed to beat the piss out of the Chargers with Cam Newton only throwing 69 yards. Look, the Chargers are cursed. Their special teams, I've never seen a team that has special team issues like the Chargers have had over the years, because special teams used to be one of those things where I'm like, I guess you can manage if they're not the greatest, but the Chargers, just the way they special teams perform is like nobody else. It's crazy, man. I don't think Anthony Lynn should be fired just yet, but if this team keeps, managing to struggle like this, with that talent, the talent they had, like the Chargers have easily for the last couple of years had some of the best rosters in the league, and they just managed to do nothing with it. So like I said, I don't think the guy deserves to get fired just yet, because I don't think changing coaches will change things for the Chargers. It just seems like this team is just meant to be in pain, bro. I don't know if it's the fucking owner or what it is. Like, it never fails with the Chargers, man. But like I said, to manage to get shut out and beat by so many points with an opposing quarterback only throws 69 yards is nuts, But it's not like I thought the Chargers would beat the Patriots. Belichick does not lose to rookie quarterbacks, so it's like I was expecting the Patriots to pull this one off anyway. But yeah, man, that was a pretty bad one. I will say this: the Patriots are still making a push for the playoffs and what it's looking like, but this team isn't going anywhere. That offense is just so hard to watch. Cam Newton, I'm not saying he doesn't have it anymore, but they don't have any weapons for him to help him at all either. So, yeah, maybe the Patriots they're just be a good team to watch if they make the playoffs, because it's still Belichick at the end of the day. You don't count them out. But besides that, man, I don't like what I see from the Patriots for the most part. But no, we'll see down the stretch. They might back their way into the playoffs and make things interesting. So on from there, we have the Broncos taking on the Chiefs, where the Broncos lose 16, the Chiefs 22. Nothing crazy in this one. I will say this: the Broncos gave a lot of teams some films to study on the Chiefs, because that defense. To say they lost this game, that defense maintained or contained the Chiefs' offense pretty damn well for most of the game. And honestly, if Drew Lock didn't turn the ball over at one point, and they would have actually scored, and they had a better offensive performance overall, the Broncos might have actually won this game. But again, this is still the Chiefs. Those guys are going to go out there. They're going to put up points easily. It's hard to stop them. So I'm not surprised by this. But and I don't think Vic Fangio is a bad coach. The dude's a pretty good coach, I think, in my opinion. I just think this is a lost season for the Broncos, because going into this season, I had them as my dark horse team. Basically, a team that I thought would somehow surprise some people in the playoffs. Maybe even get a wild card round win. But no, with injuries and just the way things have played out this year, it just wasn't meant to be from what it looks like. So, yeah, I say he deserves another season, basically, man. So, yeah, man, it's just happened to be one of those seasons for Denver. So I wouldn't hold this loss too much against them. I wouldn't hold this season against them, really. So, but I will say, next season, hopefully that they show some improvement. Drew Lock has been looking like his developments has been stunning for some reason. I don't know if that's Pat Shermer's fault, because I wouldn't put that on Fangio. He's a defensive coach. But yeah, man, Denver's an interesting one for me. So hopefully next season they'll come out and do a little better. But that's all I got for that one. And last two games I want to get into before I get into our two big upsets is the Bills beating the 49ers 34-24, where Josh Allen bust back onto the scene with 4 touchdowns and almost 400 yards passing. There's not really a lot to talk about this game, but I will say, Buffalo was pretty damn good. Josh Allen probably played himself back into MVP race talks, because he balled this game, which is something I was concerned about going against San Francisco's defense, who's been playing pretty great. And they got a lot of their starters back. So he went out there, no sweat. He put up numbers. So the Bills, they might be a problem in the playoffs. But we'll say their defense is not playing up to par like they were last year, or like even in the beginning of the season. So if they're able to clean that up, they'll probably be a lot better, because they're going to need that, especially going against teams like, the Chiefs and possibly the Ravens, the Browns. So yeah, man, good win by the Bills. That was a pretty dominant performance, and that's what they needed, heading down the stretch. And the Cowboys losing 17-34 to the Ravens. Nothing really to talk about this game. The Ravens needed to get a win, because they're quickly falling out of playoff contention with, how many teams in the AFC who just happen to have favorable schedules around the time where they have a division that's pretty loaded right now. And Lamar didn't play last week. They had a pretty unfair game, in my opinion, to the Steelers. And we knew he was going to come back, get a dub. His stats wasn't great, but he did what he had to do to win this game, like he always does. And, yeah, so just good win by them, man. So, like I said, man, it was two big upsets this week. Upset alert. First one I want to talk about is the Washington football team taking down the undefeated Steelers 23-17. And this game was the epitome of all the reasons why people said they didn't really believe in the Steelers' undefeated record. I was pretty high on the Steelers. I had the Steelers actually being the best team in the league, not just because they were undefeated. I'm one of those people that look at a team that's undefeated and how they win games, even if they struggle, just finding a way to win games with good defensive play, because their defense have been playing pretty good. That's a pretty damn good team. It doesn't matter how circumstances go, they find a way to win. But this epitomized why a lot of people said they weren't high on the Steelers. And some of the things I noticed, for starters, their receivers dropped a ton of passes in this game. It was actually ridiculous. Like, if this game wouldn't even been close, if the receivers of this game for the Steelers would have caught half the passes that they dropped, The other thing is they couldn't get a running game going. I think the Steelers only had like 20-something yards rushing in total for the entire game. And the Steelers also give up big plays in some of the worst times. And that's not something I paid attention to as much, when they were undefeated. But I guess that was, like I said, a reason why a lot of people were like, Man, I'm not too sure. Well, a lot of people still had the Chiefs rated over the Steelers. Um, and I see it now. I mean, the Steelers, they have a history of playing down the competition. This is just a game that the Steelers should not have lost to, you know. But I don't want to take it away from Washington. They did come with a game plan. That front seven is ridiculous. And they just did just enough to win this game. You know, they still playing for a playoff spot too. So all in all, man, just a good win by Washington. I don't think they're gonna be able to make the playoffs if the Giants keep playing the way that they're playing, because they already been swept by the Giants, and not like their schedule's not as easy moving forward. But yeah, man, they came out with a game plan. They executed, you know, and they walked away with the W. And I will say, the Steelers fans, I mean, I don't think y'all have too much to worry about. They're still a pretty good team, and the Steelers have been playing. They play like a lot of games back to back. You know, like the way this COVID situation has been hitting the season. I'm not surprised by them, you know, getting caught in the game where they don't look their greatest, but they definitely have to clean up some of those issues, especially moving into the playoffs. But yeah, that's the first upset, and the biggest upset, in my opinion, was the New York Giants beating the Seahawks. Now look, I've been high on the Giants all season long, and it's not that I didn't think the Giants couldn't beat anybody, because if you look at the whole Giants, even when the Giants were losing, they were being competitive in every one of those games. I was like, if the Giants just had a few breaks and a few things go their way, they could have had a lot better record than they have now. This game showed that, you know. But the thing that made it so much crazy is that I could see if Daniel Jones was playing this game, or Saquon was playing this game. Like, you know, the team that they had at the beginning, even though Saquon went down pretty early. The Giants beat the Seahawks with Colt McCoy and Alfred Morris putting up 2 touchdowns. Did I say 2 touchdowns? I think he did have 2 touchdowns in this game. That's crazy. That's crazy, man. Seattle has a huge problem. We already knew that defense was bad, but Russell Wilson has pretty much been running for his life since he's been in Seattle. I don't think he ever had like a really good offensive line. But he's pretty mobile, so, you know, he can get out of the way of trouble and things like that. But the way the Giants just bullied Seattle showed a lot of people just how to beat them. It's not like I thought, and I always thought Seattle was a little overrated, because, not saying that they are bad, because Seattle is a pretty damn good team, but that defense is just so terrible that all you have to do is, you know, manage to slow Russell Wilson down, which is basically what the Giants did. I mean, he had some decent numbers, but it wasn't nothing, you know, amazing or nothing like that. You managed to slow the Seahawks down, you could put up points on them, you know, and the Giants just bullied the Seahawks on both sides of the ball, man. I think they had like 140 something yards rushing, and they didn't give up a lot of big plays, man. Like, you know, that's usually what the Seahawks offense kind of thrives on, like those big plays to Metcalf. I want to say this too about the Giants. I don't think the Giants is one of those teams that's going to make it to the playoffs and make a deep playoff run. But if I'm a Giants fan, I'm very excited about what I see from this team, like especially for the future. That defense is ridiculous, man. James Bradbury has been secretly having, I won't say secretly, quietly having a crazy season that just seemed like it's going unnoticed. This dude's been balling, man. Like, he's been playing like an actual shutdown corner for the majority of this season, pretty much the whole season. And yeah, man, I think if the Giants make the playoffs, I think you kind of have to have Joe Judge in the conversation for Coach of the Year. Like, he has to be, because, like I said, the Giants have been losing. They lost a lot of games at the beginning of the season, but if you watch those games, they were extremely competitive. You know, when I made that video about the Adam Gase and the Jets situation, I mentioned that, you know, the Giants are in a similar situation with not having as much talent as the Jets. You know, like the Jets was no kind of lack talent. And I said the same thing about the Giants, but I was like, you have to admit, the Giants are extremely competitive team. They're a very physical team, you know, and I like things like I'm a defensive fan, and that's the type of football I like to watch. Like, teams that just smother you, and that's basically the type of football the Giants have been playing. So, yeah, man, like, huge win for the Giants, especially, you know, trying to get into the playoffs, trying to keep that lead in the division. You know, Washington's right there on them, but like I said, they swept Washington already. And Yeah, man, the Giants are a very dangerous team, and like I said, they did this without their starting quarterback. So Daniel Jones get back, and that defense keeps performing this way. And no, Jason Garrett, I'm not going to say he's been doing a great job as offensive coordinator, but this is the type of team that he's used to coaching. They can play some defense and run the ball. And Wayne Gallman has been, doing his job. He's been, putting up some pretty good numbers in the rushing category. So this Giants team is pretty dangerous, depending on who they play. If they make the playoffs in the first week, I could see them, pulling the upset. But yeah, man, that's the last game I have for the recap. And I'm saying sorry it took so long to get out. But yeah, man, that's just one of the toughest things it is for me to keep up with. So before I get out of here, man, I just want to give a shout out to a couple of players this week, man. Matt Stafford going over 400 yards and I think like 3 touchdowns to put a big come from behind win on the Bears. Baker Mayfield had a big game, 4 touchdowns in the first half against that Titans team. Like I said, the team is inconsistent, but like I said, you still have to go out there and play ball. Didn't have the greatest second half, but still a big game. Shout out to Justin Houston for the 3 sacks in the game against the Texans. And last, I want to say, shout out to Josh Allen, to playing himself back into the MVP race. And dude is pretty much, I don't want to say carrying his team, but he's been like, the biggest reason why the Bills, like I said, the MVP race, he's really important to his team. I think without Josh Allen, this team wouldn't be this good. So, yeah, shout out to those players, and just want to give a shout out to a couple coaches. Like I said, Joe Judge and Sean Payton, I know I didn't talk about the Saints in this video, have been coaching their asses off. Not the only ones, but I think when you consider that Sean Payton has been just the second year in a row where his starting quarterback, future Hall of Fame quarterback, is out, and he's undefeated so far doing that. And Joe Judge for just, having this Giants team playing as well as they are. Like, nobody expected the Giants to be looking as good as they are, man. We all expect the Giants to win at least 4 to maybe 5 games, which that's where they are now. But it's looking like, I want to say 4 to 5, man. Honestly, maybe 2 to 3, But, I mean, he might have his team in the playoffs, and I think they could actually get a win depending on who they matched up against. So, yeah, I have to, my hat's off to those guys. And shout out to Greg Williams, man. That's how you tank a fucking game, man. So, that's all I got. Next we're going to get the 14. I'm talking tongue twister today. Next we're going to get the week 14 picks out to you guys. And make sure, like, comment. Make sure you subscribe and enjoy the video. And with that, I'm out.